I could talk about this epidemic we find ourselves in. I could cite one statistic, talking point after the other. I could make sobering, even shocking statements, such as we experience a 9/11 scale loss of life every 3 weeks in this nation. Just an overdose. And those numbers are still rising. But I'd rather just tell you about my son, Ben. He was my boy. He still is in my mind. He was gentle, he was kind, and he tried his best to be a good son for his mother and I. He was a hard worker, a good student, and he was a heroin addict. The first time his sister Katie ever saw her dad cry was when I found out. I knew what it meant. I mourned for him, and I grieved for him as if he died. And just a few months later, he did. Ben never used a needle. He just sniffed that last deadly dose up his nose, and a few moments later, he stopped feeling the need to breathe. The next day in our small town, another died, and then another. 3 deaths in 3 days. 2 days later, another was found. Same batch. Ben smoked pot, but he was dead set against hard drugs. We saw what was happening to his friends from school. Good kids from good families. They messed around with the pills, which led them to heroin, like it does in 4 out of 5 heroin addicts. Most never dreamt they would ever end up using heroin, but they did. The original mistake or moment of weakness or of bad judgment, it led them to a hellish struggle that dogs them and haunts many of them to this day. Ben's story was a little different. He didn't experiment or start with opiates recreationally. He was prescribed Percocets after a very painful procedure for a collapsed lung. His friends told him they would work better if he snorted them. Ben did. And within 2 months he was doing heroin. 3 months later, I found him on a bitterly cold February morning, lying face up and frozen on the front steps to our home. I'd like to share another story with you. It's about a very dear friend of mine. She's like a daughter to me. She calls me Papa Bear. She's a mother, a certified recovery specialist, associate addiction counselor, and a nurse. She would tell you she's also a heroin addict. She's in recovery, and she recently regained her nursing license. She has a powerful story. She was the top of her class in high school, every parent's dream child. Band, chorus, beauty pageants. She had it all. She went to college. She got her nursing degree, excelled at her job as expected, and married a doctor. Shortly after she became pregnant, she had a difficult delivery. She was prescribed Vicodin. 1 worked good, 2 worked better, and so on. Powerful changes occurred within her brain, just like they did with my son Ben. Soon her use became abuse, and then compulsion, and then full-blown addiction to heroin. Her next son was born addicted to opiates. She watched her baby go through horrible dope sickness and withdrawals. This was extremely hard for her, as you can imagine, but not enough to make her quit. And see, that's the thing with active addiction, especially to opiates. As bad as things are, they never seem to be enough to make you quit. When you begin to understand the science of addiction, you begin to understand why. She lost her job, her nursing license, her husband, her kids, her home, and nearly lost her life on multiple occasions of overdose. She went to 7 different rehabs. After her 7th day, she relapsed and went back to her dealer. She was found in Franklandale on the side of Route 414, covered in her own blood. Overdosed. She was admitted to ICU, and still it wasn't enough to make her quit. She signed herself out against medical advice and went right back to her dealer. Remember that compulsion we talk about? She took a few bags to the laundromat. She went to the bathroom to inject herself. She put the needle in her arm, and she saw herself in the mirror. She didn't recognize her own reflection. She hit her knees, and she begged God to save her from herself. Lisa's been abstinent for almost 5 years now. She works with addicts every day, and she saved countless others from overdose, death, and the stinging pain of loss. And there's the dad I want to tell you about. He beats himself up every day. His daughter became addicted by snorting a pain pill at a party in high school, and in the blink of an eye, she became a full-blown heroin addict. Her parents were divided on how best to deal with the situation. The mom insisted on tough love. The dad was afraid tough love could turn into dead love, and the marriage fell apart. The daughter remained in the home with her dad, and he waited up every night for her to get home so he could get a little sleep himself before work. She came home one night. He heard her come in, and he breathed a sigh of relief. She went in the upstairs bathroom. She locked the door, and he heard metal hit the tile floor, and then he heard a thump. The door was locked. He broke it open, and he found her on the floor, next to her spoon, with the needle still in her arm. Something came over him, a strange and inappropriate sense of broken-hearted peace. He laid down next to her, and he knew that he had to let her go. He wanted his wife back. He wanted his life back. He wanted her to finally be able to stop suffering. He held her tight. He closed his eyes. And then he snapped out of it. He got up. He grabbed his phone. He called the EMTs, and they revived his daughter. His beloved daughter, once again. Little kids are a handful. Bigger kids are a heartful. And the heartful is definitely harder than the handful. You have to watch them suffer and sometimes die. This gentleman's daughter is in recovery now. She's been abstinent for almost 2 years. He never gave up on her. He remembered who she was before she got sick. And he realized that she was, in fact, sick in her active addiction. People wonder why addicts don't just quit. But people also wonder why that 85-pound girl in high school won't just eat. In both cases, they want to, but not enough to make them quit or change their compulsive behavior. Powerful changes occurred within their brain, and they need help to get well before it's too late. Recovery is possible, but treatment is usually needed, and we know that time engaged in treatment is the key. After engagement in treatment for 9 months or longer, the rates of long-term recovery skyrocket. We turn the numbers upside down. There's tools available that didn't exist just a short time ago, and there are many pathways to recovery. I just want people to remember that there is reason for genuine hope, that recovery is absolutely possible, and it's such a beautiful thing for the person who struggles, and for all those who love them.